Hello everyone, this is Marshall Bishop. Welcome back to another video. This one is going to be just another Russo-Ukrainian war update. Going to be starting off as we always do, and don't worry, that video I said I made with Jim 4123, my friend Dylan. That will be coming out hopefully tomorrow, just as soon as possible. Being that one out, let's just get on to the front lines now and see all the updates. I should be able to bring back the geolocated videos starting in the next video. But for now, just gonna show you the advancements. These were all these advancements were confirmed by Syriac maps or geolocated sources, and I will be bringing back geolocated videos hopefully in the next one. Let's start off here on the Kursk direction. We have a small Russian advancement right here. They were able to advance along this highway heading towards Severodolikovo, something like that. Overall, there were no other changes on this part of the front line, but clearly Russian forces are just trying to capture this village, and if they do that, it would open up the way to push along this highway towards the Suja conglomerate overall. So this is kind of like, well, this village and this village right here are these two, especially once these two fall, Russian forces will be able to begin their push onto the Suja conglomerate directly. So this conglomerate of towns and Suja itself. These two are kind of like the last ones standing in Russia's way before they can push on to that. Moving on from that, to the next part of the front line, the Kursk direction, we have nothing. There's no changes whatsoever, as usual. This front line continues to remain basically silent. On the, what do I call this? The Dvorchna front, something like that, or the Oskil front, I'll call it that. On this part of the front line, the Russian forces made several advancements. They captured this forested area right here, north of Zapadne. They secured this smaller forested area right here and this intersection. And up north here, they were able to push along the highway. And they're probably going to very soon capture this area right here. This, looks like just a couple buildings as well as this forested area right here. So once again, it just shows Russian forces are continuing their push on the western side of the Oskil River. They are not backing down. They are not retreating. And they are, in fact, still advancing. So what Russia's goal on this part of the front line could be, since they are on the western bank of the Oskil River, what their goal could ultimately be is to, I would probably say, to possibly flank Kupyansk from this direction. Another objective could be the capture of just some of these highway directions like Monokivka. Yeah, I didn't say it right at all. But push through the Kharkiv region, and begin just trying to expand their bridgehead further and just capturing territory in the Kharkiv region. But I do definitely think, if I had to guess, it's not just a random push. They are probably going to try and get behind Kupyansk, as they also will push from this direction as well. If I had to guess, that's definitely what they're probably going to do. On the Kupyansk direction specifically, no changes from this part of the front line. The Russian forces have not pushed back into Kupyansk, and there are no changes down here. On the southern, I'll say the southern Oskil front, again, still nothing. Russian forces have not pushed north or south or across the river here into Senkove. But they may very well try that in the near future. Moving on here to the south, we have a small Russian advancement in Nadia, which is, again, hardly a village, but nevertheless, they did push west, just capturing some tree lines, the usual. Nothing big from this part of the front line, but again, they are continuing to chop up the last pieces of Luhansk still under Ukrainian control. This is one of them, so it's another loss of ground there. Russian forces captured all the ground, or not all the ground. They captured a decent chunk of ground to the west of the Zerebrets River up here, to the north of Makiivka. They're probably on this part of the front line. Again, this is also within the Luhansk Oblast. This is one of Ukraine's last areas in the Luhansk Oblast. Russia's goal with these two offensives could be to simply secure the Luhansk Oblast, or it could be what's it called, a push to try and reach the offshore from this part of the front line. If we paired that with these Russian advancements down here, I mentioned that there was these four villages that were blocking the Russian forces from flanking Turets and Zarichne from the back. Well, one of those villages has fallen. Bilohorivka has fallen. Is that again? Okay, that's not a village. What the heck? That is not a village. But okay. Anyways, this has fallen. This is whatever you want to call that. This road has fallen. Up here, there's a few forest patches and tree lines up here fell to Russia. And the Ukrainian forces, however, were able to recapture a tree line right here, northeast of Kolodiazi, which is, as you can see, is a village, unlike whatever this is over here. Russia's goal overall on this part of the front line could just be simply to try and just put pressure on the Ukrainians so that they can't redeploy further north or to other parts of the front line. They could be trying to mop up the last Ukrainian ground in Luhansk, or it could be the beginning, possibly, of a push towards the Oskil from this direction. Or, of course, maybe it's something bigger towards Liman. That's a horrible arrow. That could be Russia's goal from this part of the front line. Moving on to the further south, we have one small change on the Chasiv Yar front in the little forest area to the southeast here. Russian forces were able to reach the road and take control of this intersection, as well as just taking a chunk out of the forested area itself. This forested area has been a hard-fought battle in and of itself for like the last couple weeks. Russian forces are slowly trying to push through it and force the Ukrainians to leave this fort so they can fight the Ukrainians through the suburbs. As we know, Russian forces are very capable of fighting the suburbs. They've proven themselves. For example, the Tourette's is a good example. We have another advancement here. They captured this residential area here. We know Russian forces are very capable of pushing through suburban areas after the industrial center and the center of Tourette's as a whole fell to Russia. They were able to push through the residential area almost immediately, very rapidly, and they're doing the same thing here in Chasiv Yar. Again, they've captured this entire residential area in pretty much just one single push. They're trying to fight their way through the center of the city, and once they can capture this, let me back up a little bit. After they capture this, right there, then they will be able to most likely push very rapidly through the last suburban areas of Chasiv Yar, and will begin their push to probably the villages beyond that, towards Mykolaievka and Chervone, and eventually this will all lead to a push onto Konstantinivka itself. Further to the south here, we do have more Russian advances. They captured the final part of Leonidivka. They also captured just a small a piece of the road in the forest line right here. Small advancement. They also were able to push a little bit to the north, again capturing a few like positions up here to the north, north of Arkhangelsk. And they also were able to capture the town of Baranivka and a chunk of ground over here, and a couple tree lines. Overall, I told you guys my theory for this part of the front line is that Russia's goal was to push north and also push northwest from this direction, and will force the Ukrainians to essentially just kind of give up all this ground and retreat out of it. I still believe that's very much so a possibility. That is what Russia's goal is, and these advancements do seem to support that. Again, we do see Russian advancements all the way here in the west and here in the east. If that continues, it will eventually lead to a fairly large envelopment operation that the Ukrainians will probably forced to withdraw from. And if we zoom out, you can see it's not a small piece of ground. It's not huge, but it's like this area right there. That's a pretty big chunk of ground. If this was to all fall under Russian control, again, that's a pretty sizable chunk of ground right there. Moving on from that, we now move on to the Pokrovsk front. Russian forces are continuing their push to capture the last part of Koltline. And they've captured several forested areas, tree lines around that, including this area right here. The Ukrainian forces did push back into Dutchny and push Russian forces out of it. They also pushed Russian forces out of this area. This was under Ukrainian control right here. They then pushed back into it and recaptured in the last like 2 days. They also pushed south here and captured this tree line here, these buildings right here, and this tree line right here. Overall, Russian forces are still trying to capture Odachny. Clearly, the Ukrainians are defending it very fiercely. The Ukrainians do not want the Russian forces capturing this town. One reason would, of course, be preventing Russia from reaching the so I can't remember what it's called. The Dnipropetrovsk Oblast. They don't want Russian forces reaching that oblast, because that would be a major political win for Russia. They don't want the Russian forces doing that. It also strategically they don't want the Russian forces capturing this village, because if Russian forces capture this village right here, then this will be there's not really any villages to the north. If Russian forces capture this village, it'll just be a big push for these final remaining supply lines to Pokrovsk. If these areas up here fall to Russian hands, which it's not far, Udachny is the only village here. There's nothing in between that. Then this road over here will be the only road left. The only road left that Ukraine can still send supplies to Pokrovsk. Of course, now it is well out of the way of Russian direct threat. The Russian forces are not really that close to that road. Again, it's pretty much on the opposite side of where the Russian forces are at this point. Nevertheless, nevertheless just one road leading to Pokrovsk, this major city, where the Russian forces have all of these paths, all these roads, highways, railways, all that, and there's just one path for Ukraine to use. Not a very good thing. So that's obviously a problem for Ukraine. They don't want Russian forces pushing to capture these supply lines right here. So they're trying to keep them blocking them from capturing this village. They capture this village, they can push on towards these villages. Moving on from that to the further south, we just have a bunch of small Russian gains across this part of the front line. They are small, but bear in mind, and it may not look like much, but bear in mind those small advancements are how Russian forces captured all of this in just 2 months. It added up over time. They captured what you see right here, every day for 2 months. It resulted in this. So just a bunch of small Russian advancements across the front line. Again, small advancements in the tree lines here, down here. They pushed into Nadivka. They've pushed into and captured several tree lines around the village of Novo Andriivka, including capturing these 2 roads down here. So they have pushed into that village. This village will probably fall very soon. Russian forces will likely have full control of this village very soon, and will push on to the next few villages. Further south, we have again small Russian advancement, and they secured this tree line right there. Russian forces. Here's some big news. Ukraine forces did push Russian forces back. They had to retreat from this area right here to the immediate outskirts of Andriivka, but they did push into Andriivka from the north. The Russian forces fell back here, but then pushed here, and they're now pushing into Andriivka itself, capturing the first few buildings, and they also cut this road leading to Andriivka as well. So that is big news. Andriivka is now being stormed directly. Andriivka, which I would probably say is now the last stronghold in Southern Donetsk for Ukraine. And again, that's being optimistic at best. Andriivka is just a really widespread suburban area. It's not even congested, so it's just a big non-congested town, really. But overall, it probably is Ukraine's largest settlement at this point in Southern Donetsk, and if that falls, it's just small villages from there to the Dnipropetrovsk Oblast. And the Russian forces are basically already there again. How close are they at this point? From here, they are just 2.69 miles before they reach the Dnipropetrovsk Oblast, so they're very close. And pretty soon, might be before the end of the month, they will have gained their first foothold in the Dnipropetrovsk Oblast, and will now therefore have gained ground beyond the 4 oblasts that Russian forces are fighting over. Also the Kharkiv Oblast, yes, but the 4 main ones, Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson, and pretty soon it will also be. Again, Kharkiv is also part of it, sort of, but yeah, Kharkiv is part of that. This is Kharkiv territory up here, and also pretty soon it will be the Dnipropetrovsk Oblast as well. Again, now we move on further to the south here. Russian forces captured ground and pushed into Dachny. This village that's kind of like secluded at this point. There's only this path that leads to it right there. Cut that off, and again, it will be basically encircled. It already pretty much is encircled. The Russian forces are just right there. This territory will be under Russian control very soon. Everything to the east of this. To the south, they pushed across the river towards, another one. That's a tree line. Yeah, there's a tree line right here. Pushing across the river, they captured a small little piece of ground right there, securing this tree line. It's a large advancement, but again, it's just tree lines, but it is still significant. And now we have the big news, the major news today, saving the best for last. Velyka Novosilka has fallen to Russia. This was confirmed. There was a geolocation of Russian forces placing their flag right here, right in this area, and also up here somewhere. The Russian forces and it was confirmed. Russian forces that the Ukrainian forces pulled out of the village, and the whole village fell. Or sorry, not the village. This is the city. This is the last city. This was the last city in Southern Donetsk Ukraine still had. Not anymore. The last Ukrainian city in Southern Donetsk is now under Russian control. Again, maybe you could consider Pokrovsk sort of a Southern Donetsk city. I would say it's more of a Central Donetsk city. This whole area is kind of Central Donetsk. This area is Southern Donetsk. So yes, the last Ukrainian city in Southern Donetsk has fallen to Russia. Velyka Novosilka is under full Russian control. again, the last few days, basically the whole village, the entire city fell to Russia in just the last couple of days, and this is how it happened. The Ukrainian forces were down here. Russian forces pushed into the village, I keep saying village, into the city, and they actually cut the Ukrainians off. They encircled the Ukrainians. They captured this ground, and the Ukrainians down here were encircled right here. I'm not sure what happened. Maybe they escaped. Maybe they might have surrendered. I'm not sure. But they were encircled. That's true. The Ukrainian forces down here in the south were encircled, and after that, they either surrendered or maybe they got out. I'm not sure. But then this area fell to Russia, and then after that, this last part up here also then fell to Russia as well. And the Ukrainian forces pulled back across the river, the Morky Yali River. They fell back over here. With that, everyone, that is your entire map update for today. These are all the Russian advances over the last 2 days, I would say, 2 to 3 days. The situation overall has continued to deteriorate for Ukraine. Again, Velyka Novosilka has fallen. That is major news. And again, the situation overall in Southern Donetsk continues to deteriorate for Ukraine. Southern Donetsk will be under Russian control within the near future, and they are very close to pushing into the next oblast, the Dnipropetrovsk. They will be in the next oblast very soon. With that, thank you guys for watching. I'll be back in the next video. I'm going to try and get that video between me and Jim 413 out as soon as possible. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you subscribe for the bell notification. See you guys next time. Bye.